Hello everybody, this is Kyle with eMaint, and today I'll be conducting the monthly web workshop on work permits and document printing in X4. So just to get started, just a few housekeeping items. The session will be recorded and it will be available on eMaint University at a later time. Everybody's phones will be muted for the entire duration of this webinar. And if you have any questions during the webinar, just feel free to type them at any time, and then in the chat window, I'll answer them at the end of the session. So just to go into our topic overview, I'm going to be going over just a general overview of the work permit feature. Then I'm going to show you how to set up both a file-based and a form-based permit. And then at the very end, I'm going to also go over the print document related tables and how they work in eMaint X4. So to jump right into the overview of the work permit feature, I'm just going to go over a few notes about it. So a work permit can be created based on either an editable PDF file or a form that you create in eMaint. And both of these have their positives. So the file-based method will allow you to maintain your desired PDF formatting. So you might have like a graph or maybe a picture of one of your assets and you want to actually include some data entry points on there. So if you use the file-based method, you'll be allowed to actually upload that PDF file, and then you'll be able to make those data entry points right on there for people to actually enter the information in, kind of like in somewhat similar to like a DocuSign type of software. Now, form-based method will actually allow you to just make a form within eMaint, which will actually, based on that method, you'll be able to actually run reports based on the entries that people make on those permits. Now, a work permit can be either added to a work order directly or to a PM schedule. When you add a work permit to a PM schedule, every single work order that's generated via that PM schedule, if that work permit is attached, the permit will generate along with it as a blank document for somebody to complete for that work order. Lastly, the available option to make a permit required is there for you, so that if you check the checkbox, then the work permit will need to be completed before the work order can be closed out. And I'll show you this during my demonstration. To continue on, just in terms of the general overview of the work permit feature, access to the work permit master file table will be in everybody's account based on subscription level. So if you don't see the work permit master file table over here on the left, you should be able to add it as a table, and I'll show you pretty shortly how to do that. So I'm actually going to pull up my eMaint system, and you'll see I don't see my work permit table, my work permit master file table over here on the left. So all you need to do is just click on your name and click on Manage Tables, and you're going to search for the work permit master file and click on that plus sign, which will add it over here to your selected tables area, and click on Apply Changes. And I'm going to go in and actually going to show you how to make a file-based permit right now. So I'm going to navigate to that work permit master file table. What I want to do is just click on this plus sign right here. And for this permit, I'm going to give it a name of Hot Work. Same thing for my permit description. My permit method is going to be file, because I'm going to be using a file to actually modify. And then this field right here is actually based just on the form method. So you can skip over that because we're using the file method for this permit. And then just skip right to this document file method and click on those three little dots to bring up your document storage. And then here's my permit right here in my document storage, my hot work permit. And I'm going to click on this link icon to bring it in. And you really don't need to worry about filling any more of this information out. If you want to put some comments on here related to this permit, you can, but you don't need to worry about filling out this data mapping sections, or data population method fields down here. You could just click Save New Record. Now that I have my permit record made, what I want to do is actually modify the permit so that I can add those data entry points in here. So I'm just going to hover over Actions and click on Modify Permit. And you'll see here's my permit as a PDF file for me to actually make some edits to. So you'll see up here in your toolbar, you have quite a few different options for you to actually add some things onto this file. And and then save them so that is what appears when that work permit is attached to a PM schedule or a work order. So if you see, I have a couple of different points on here where I want some data to be entered in. And some of this information can actually just be carried over from the work order that this is attached to. So the nice thing about that is that you can actually reference fields in this document editor. So if you're not too familiar with how the table and field names work, a good thing for you to actually look at would be to go and click on Manage Forms. And I'm going to be pulling over information from my work orders table. So I'm going to navigate to that form and open that up. So the work order table itself, the table name is just the word work. And then if you see right here in these parentheses, that's actually your field name for each field right here. So if I wanted to pull over my work order number, I would just type in work.wo. And you need, when you're actually putting that information in here, you need to make sure that you put double dollar signs around each of those. So I'm going to go through a couple of things up here with you just to show you how to actually put this information in. So I'm going to click on this insert text form field, and then up here I'm just going to put my work order number. So I'm going to put those double dollar signs and then work.wo. So my table name of work and then my field name of WO, which is my work order number. I'm going to continue on, and you see my date of issue. So I actually want to do a function in here to pull my current date when this permit gets opened for the first time. So I'm going to put date, open, close parentheses with double dollar signs around it. And then in my time, I can use a similar type function, double dollar signs date, time, open, close parentheses, double dollar signs. I'm going to put in my equipment involved in hot work. I'm going to put a couple things here. So I'm actually going to shorten this up a little bit. And I'm going to put my work.comp ID for my asset ID. And I'm going to continue on. I'm also going to put on the same line my work.comp_desk for my asset description. And then I'm also going to put in here for my description of hot work to be done. I can put in double dollar signs, work.brief_desk for my brief description. My location, I'm going to put in my site for my work order form. So work.site, double dollar signs, department doing work. I can put in work.department. Personnel, I'm going to put my assigned to field in here. So what I'm doing in terms of this, when I'm adding all these fields in for my work order form, it's going to make it a lot easier for the person to actually complete this document, because all these fields will just pull over for you. You won't need to enter it in every time. So when somebody actually opens this up, it's just going to pull all that information over. So I'm just going to double check real fast before I move on to make sure that everything is typed correctly. Looks good. So I'm going to continue on here down to this portion where they're actually going to be entering information in. So what I want to do here is add those text fields, but I'm just going to leave them blank right now for this initials field. And then before I actually do another one, I'm just going to right click on that, and then I'm going to click on the object properties. And then you'll see here this little dialog window opens for you to actually designate a few different things, whether the field is going to be read-only, required, multi-line, things like that. I'm going to make this a required field to say that this document can't be completed until those initials have actually been entered in on all these lines. I'm only going to go through a couple here with you just for the purpose of saving time for the for the workshop. So now that I've had that one with those properties, instead of making that every single time and right clicking on it and making it a required field, all I can do is just right click and duplicate it and then carry it down to my next line and do that. I'll do 4 lines here for you. Duplicate and duplicate. But I also over here, I want to actually add checkboxes in underneath this yes or no column. So I'm going to add a checkbox for each yes or no, just for these first 4 lines to show you how that works. So you'll see up here in your toolbar, you have this checkbox icon. You just click on that and then click and drag, you'll be able to add a checkbox. And then you'll see that the checkbox is already pre-populated with a check. If you want the checkbox to be checked when you open up this file, you can leave it like that, or just click in there and then the checkbox will remove, or the check will remove from the checkbox, and then you can go ahead and just duplicate that a couple times for the person who's going to be completed or completing this to actually fill out. Okay, so it looks good. So for the purpose of this demonstration, that's all I'm going to do on this permit right here. So I'm going to just click Save Document. And as you'll see, work permit document successfully updated, and click on OK. And then I'm just going to click on this power button icon to close out of that window. So now what you'll see is I have my completed document and I've made those modifications to it. Now what I want to do is actually go in and attach this permit to a PM schedule. So I'm going to navigate over to my PM schedule, to my PM table, and I'm going to find this PM for my evaporator core de-icing. And I'm going to click on the PM ID. And then in my related tables, I have my PM work permits. So if you're not seeing this PM work permits on your PM table, what you'll need to do is go to your record details and go to options and click on manage related tables. And if it's not being displayed, it should be over here on your left in available tables. You'll just click on the plus sign to add it over here to your displayed related tables and click on apply changes. So I'm going to navigate back over there and I'm actually going to add this work permit to this particular PM. So I'm going to click on add new record, and then I'm going to search for that permit type that I just made. So you'll see here's my permit master file. I only have that one permit in there, and I'm just going to check that and click apply changes. You'll see that information gets populated over. And I'm just going to put in a comment here, please complete permit before closing WO. And then I'm going to check this as required so that when this PM generates into a work order, it's required that it is completed before it's closed out. So I'm going to go back to my PM and I'm actually going to generate this into a work order. So here's my work order that I just created, and you'll see over here in my related tables, here's my work permit that's attached. You'll see, okay, here's my comments, here's my permit type. You'll see that it's required, but it hasn't been completed, and there's no completed document. So if somebody were actually to be performing this work order, they would go into the permit, and they would go over and hover over actions and click on open permit. And then you'll see that all those fields that I had entered in with those functions are actually just pulling over information from the work order. So this was work order number 794. This is pulling over today's date, the time that I opened the permit, which is 11:15, my asset ID, my asset description, the brief description for my work order, and then just a couple other information, my location and my department and my assigned to. So you'll see down here, these are the blank fields that I made with checkboxes and my required text fields for my initials. So you'll see that those required fields actually show up highlighted in red, just to kind of make a highlight to show that these are required and these need to be completed before the document can fully be completed. So I'm going to show you in case, in real-time situation, somebody might be trying to fill out this permit and they might not have time to do the entire document. So let's say, for instance, I'm only able to do these first two and I initial them off, but there's an emergency, one of my other machines went down, I need to go attend to it. So I don't want to actually lose all this information. So all I can do, or all I need to do, is just click on the Save Annotations button, and then those annotations right there are saved. So if I needed to go and attend to some other type of work, I could just close out of this, and then I can go do anything that I need to. But what I want to show you here is if, say for instance, I'm getting ready to complete this work, but I forget to go back in and complete that document. If I go in and I go to my actions menu and try to close out this work order, and click on closeout, you'll see closeout denied. One or more required work permit documents have not been completed. So that'll give you a red flag to show, okay, I need to go back to my work permits and I need to go and actually complete that document. So I'm going to go back into that work permit and I'm going to go back and click on the actions open permit again. And you'll see those annotations that I made from before, from when I first started this document, are still there. And then the ones that are not filled out yet are still there for me to actually enter the information into. So I'm going to finish this out and I'm going to just enter my initials in here. And then I'm going to complete this document. And you'll see work permit document successfully completed. So now what I can do is go back to my work order and I can actually successfully close this out. And you'll see successfully closed out, open history is turned to H. So now what I want to show you is if I go to my related tables, so this is a historical work order now with a completed permit. If I wanted to access that permit at any time, there's a couple different ways that you can do so. So you'll see over here, I have my completed document field. If I were to click on that, I would be given the option to download that file and I can open it up. And you'll see all those annotations that I made are right here for me to view. So all those things that I filled out related to this specific work permit are right there for me to look at. Now, another thing that I want to show you is if you go back to your list of work orders, you'll see here's the work order that I just completed with that permit. Now, if you had multiple work orders that were or had permits attached to them, what you can do is check all of them, the ones that you want to print, and then you can go up to this actions menu and click print work permit. And then that'll allow you to select and print all of the work permits that you want to print out. So I only have this one work order right now that has a permit attached to it, so I'm only going to select that one. Now I'm going to go back up to this actions menu and click on print work permit. This is the dialog window that appears. So you'll see select permit type. The only one I have in there right now is my hot work permit. And then you'll see include work orders in printout. So if you check this box, the work order printout will be included along with the permit as or included in the attachment. And I'm going to click on print. And you'll see down here that file's been downloaded. So here's my work order. And then down here is my permit with all those annotations saved. So I can close out of that and I can close out of this one. Now what I want to do is actually move on to the form-based permits. So just to kind of show you the demonstration of the slide, you're going to also navigate the same way to that work permit master file and create a new record. Make sure that you enter in a permit type and description, enter in a permit method and form, and then also select the form from eMaint. So let me go back to my system here. And what I want to show you first is the forms that are available. So I'm going to go and click on my manage forms, and I got there by clicking on my name and clicking on manage forms. So I'm going to actually type in permit forms here. And you'll see here's your default form, which should be appearing in everybody's account. But then you should also, as you see, I also have this confined space entry permit, which is something that I made ahead of time before this webinar. But if you're going to be creating your own, what you might want to do is either use this default or click on the default form and then copy it so that you can make your own and include all of the information from that default form. So some of the things that are already on that default form are the unique ID, which is the key field of that form, the permit ID, the work order number, just some relevant information. And one thing I want to note here is that on this permit forms table, which is where you're going to be making your permit forms, all these forms are using the same table. So one thing to note about that is that you should be trying to reuse the same fields per form. So when I say that, I mean, if I'm going to be using this confined space entry, field or this confined space entry form, I want to use the same CUID, the permit ID, all these fields. I don't need to add those again every single time. So if you're going to be making one, the best thing to do would just be to go to that default form and copying it. That way, all this information comes over, and then you'll see if I open up my confined space entry permit, you'll see all of those default values are up here, those default fields from my default form, and then I've added a couple other pieces of information for data to be entered into. So you'll see I have my hazard section, whether there's lack of oxygen, combustible gases, combustible vapors. Then I have my levels fields over here, my oxygen percentage, my carbon monoxide level. So if you're not too familiar with Form Editor, what I'd recommend is that we have a couple different eMaint University videos on how to actually configure some of these forms. Actually, just last month, we held a web workshop on advanced form design. So that would be something I would definitely recommend viewing if you're going to be using this form-based permitting method. So what I want to do just real quick as a demonstration is add another field in here. So you'll see I click on the folder icon. What I'm going to do is give this a name of ammonia. So this field name needs to be no special characters and no spaces and should be in all capitals. The description, I'm just going to name as ammonia, ppm. And then I'm going to make it a numerical field because I'm going to have them enter the numerical value. And I'm just going to make it 4 characters long with 2 decimal places. And I'm going to click on create field. And you'll see over here that that ammonia field is now entered into my form. And this works the same way that any other forms do, when you can go to your properties and click on that wrench and screwdriver icon, and you can actually go to lookup properties. You can make this required. So I'm going to say that this is required, and I'm going to save that. And then you can also do other things such as, I'll show you real quickly here, my lack of oxygen. I just want the person who's going to be completing this to actually just have a drop-down menu of yes or no. So I just went into my lookup properties and put values lookup yes or no, so that when somebody completes this permit, they'll just have that as a drop-down selection. So now that I've actually shown you how to create one of these forms, I'm actually going to show you how to go in and create a permit related to this form. So I'm going to go back to my work permit master file table, and I'm going to click on the plus icon again. And I'm going to fill in the information just as I did before. So I'm going to put in confined space for my permit type and my permit description. And then for this one, the permit method is going to be form. And then for my eMaint form method, I'm going to click on the magnifying glass. And you'll see those 2 forms that I showed you before. I had both a confined form and my default form. So the one that I want to use for this is my confined form for my confined space entry. And then all this other information I don't really need to worry about filling out. This is related to, these 2 are related to the document method. And then if I wanted to put any comments, I could. But again, you don't need to worry about putting in this data mapping or these mapping sections or this data population method. So all I need to do now is just click on Save New Record. And then you don't actually need to do any further modifications. So I don't need to go and do actions modify permit, because all my modifications will actually be done in the form editor, as I showed you before. So what I want to do now is actually go in and do just as I did before and attach this work permit to a PM schedule. So I'm going to navigate back to my PM table. And I'm going to find a good PM to attach this to. So I know that good PM to attach this to would be my oil water separator pump out. And I'm going to go, just like I did before, go to my related tables, and I'm going to go to add new record for my PM work permits. And then in my permit type, I'm going to do similar to what I did before, click on the magnifying glass. Here's my available permits. So you'll see the hot work one that we made before and the file-based, and then also my form-based confined space permit. And I'm going to click on apply changes. I'm going to put the comments in. Please complete permit before closing work order. And I'm going to make it required, and I'm going to click on Save New Record. So now that that permit has been attached to my PM work permits area, I can go back to my PM, and I can generate it into a work order. So I'm going to generate it. And you'll see here in my related tables, just like before, slightly different, and you'll see how it kind of comes into play when I actually go into actually completing this. You'll see in my work permits that PM or that PM work permit came over. However, when I go in to complete it, you'll see that because it's not actually a document, when I complete this, there will be no completed document. You would need to actually access that form again to see the completed information. So I'm going to do the same exact thing as I did. I'm going to actually enter in the information. So just hover over actions and click on open permit. And you'll see all those fields, just as I did before, have some pre-populated information. And that is actually defined within this permit forms form editor. So like you see that start time populated with today's date and time. So if I go look at the field properties there, I have in my default value, I have that double $ date time, open close parentheses, and double $ to close it out. And what that did was that caused the system to actually pre-populate that information with a default value for when I actually opened this permit for the first time. So what I want to do is just go in and complete out this document. So I'm going to go in, say that there was no hazards. My oxygen level was 70%. My carbon monoxide level was 10. My ammonia was 10. And I'm going to click on, for this demonstration, I'm actually going to click on save just to show you how it works. So you'll see I only saved the document and I did not save and complete it. So you'll see the completed checkbox is not true. If I had gone in and tried to actually complete or close out this work order, it would do the same thing as we saw before, where it would actually kick the work order back when I was trying to close it out and say that this permit needs to be completed. So what I want to do is go back in and just open up this permit again. I'm going to fill in my end time, and I'll say that I finished it at 12:29, and I'm going to actually click save and complete this time. So now I can go back to my work order, and I can close it out. So before I move on to our next portion of this webinar, which would be the print document related tables, I do want to cover one thing that I forgot to mention during the file-based method. So a lot of people have other types of documents that they might want to actually make a file-based permit out of. So one thing I just want to show you, just as kind of a useful tip, would be to convert a file to a PDF. So you'll see this is just a general Excel document with a couple data entry points. So currently, I might have this as an attachment to my work order, and I want my technicians to go in and download it, open up Excel, enter the information in, and then reattach the completed document into the work order. Now, what you can do pretty easily, and this is not only specific to Excel documents, you might have a Word document, or maybe even just a picture of a permit that you can just go in and print that document.
Well, I can't speculate. I don't know if I necessarily give the correct answer, but.
And then in Microsoft, you'll see this Microsoft print to PDF. So you could just click print, and then I'll be able to actually save this permit as a PDF file, and then add that file into my document storage and make a file-based permit out of it. And then instead of having them open this file in Excel, you could just do the same thing as we did before and make data entry points in your form editor or in your permit editor and add those in here, and then have those have that information pre-populated just like we did before using those functions. So now what I want to do is actually go back to my presentation, and I'm going to start going over the overview of the print documents related tables. So one thing to note before I even move on any farther with these with the print document related tables is that this feature must be installed in your account. A lot of you might already see it in your account, but in case you do not see it, it could be one of two reasons. So the first reason might be that it's not installed in your account. So all you would need to do is have your system administrator contact their customer success manager or the eMaint support team, and it's a pretty quick fix to get it installed. The second reason might be that your subscription level does not allow the print document related tables. So this is the same thing such as the work permits, in that only or all account types other than team accounts are allowed to use the print document related tables. And similar to the work permits, it must be a PDF file in order to print it. So just as I showed you before, you can actually just go in and take any other file type and convert it into a PDF pretty easily by using that Microsoft Print to PDF. Now, for these print document related tables, there's actually 3 of them. So you have your asset documents, your PM documents, and your work order documents. And these PDFs that you attach will print based on the relationship and having the print with work order selection set to true. So when I say that they print based on their relationship, it'll kind of make a little bit more sense once I go into the demonstration. And you'll see that based on how you attach these documents will kind of define how they print out. So I'm going to pull up my eMaint system again. And the first one I'm going to show you is the asset documents. So I'm going to go and navigate to an asset record. And I'm going to pick this HVAC 1007. And I'm going to navigate over to my asset documents related table. So this is something similar to what I mentioned before. If you don't see this asset documents related table, all you need to do is go over to your record details, and in your options, just select manage related tables. So I'm going to go back into my related tables, and I'm going to go and find this asset documents related table and click on add new record. And what I want to do is link in a user manual or a user guide for this particular HVAC unit. So you'll see here's a couple different files I have here in my document storage, and here's my Ream user manual for this particular HVAC unit. So what I want to do is just check this print with work order to true so that I can show you how exactly this works when it's a work order. So I'm going to click Save New Record, and I'm going to go back to my asset record, and I'm actually going to add another type of document to my PM schedule. So here's my PM schedule, and if I go to my related tables, you'll see that I have my PM documents over here related to the same asset that we added that asset document to, and I'm going to click Add New Record in there. So for this particular PM, I want to actually add a different type of document in here, which is going to be my HVAC preventative maintenance document. And I'm going to click on the link icon, and I'm going to set that to print with work order to true as well. And I'm going to click Save New Record. And then I'm going to go back to this PM schedule. And I'm going to go to my record details, and I'm going to generate this PM schedule into a work order. So you'll see here's the work order that I just created, and it's created based on that asset ID that I added the asset document to. And then it's also related to that PM because that's where this work order came from. So when I go to Actions and Print, and I open up that file, you'll see that here's my work order. And then because I selected those to print with the work order, you'll see I have my preventative maintenance document right here. And then I also have my user manual right here as well. Now, what I want to show you guys, if I go back to my eMaint system, if I go to my related tables to my work orders, you'll see that those work order documents are not actually included here. And that's kind of one of the common misconceptions about how this area of the system works. So when you actually add documents into the asset documents and PM documents, they don't carry over into the work order documents related table. But because they're actually selected as print with work order set to true within the asset documents related table and within the PM documents related table, those will always print with the work order. So if I were to actually say I don't need that user manual to print out every time, all I can do, all I need to do is just navigate back to that asset, So I'm going to go back to that HVAC 1007, and I'm going to go and find that asset document for my user manual, and I'm from true to false. If I go back to that work order, so this is the work order that I created for that asset based on that PM schedule, and I go to print it again, and you'll see I only have that PM document now. So because I went back to that asset and turned that to false, for the document that I had attached, that manual is no longer attached here, right? So what I want to do now is I'm going to go back to that asset again, and I'll show you how you might want to add a work order document. So I'm in my asset now, and I'm actually going to change this back to true for the purpose of this demonstration. So print with work order set to true, and I'm going to go back to my asset, and I'm going to go to my record details, and I'm going to add a work order for this. So I'm going to manually add a work order, not from a PM schedule, but let's say I'm actually going to move this asset to a different site, and I want to actually put some installation instructions. So that would be like the basis of my brief description of my work. So I want to put install HVAC unit in there, and then in my work description, I can put in install HVAC unit at Johnson City, and I can save that record. And then what I can do is go over to my related tables, and then in my work order documents, I can add a document that would be related to just this one specific work order. So I wouldn't want to add this in because I'm not going to be doing a preventative maintenance schedule. I don't want to add this into a PM schedule because I wouldn't be doing an installation as part of a preventative maintenance schedule. This would just be kind of like a one-off type work order where I'm going to be doing that installation. So you see here in my document storage, I have my ream installation instructions. If I just click that link icon and I set this to true and I save this new record and I go. And I want to go and print this. You'll see that both of those files, the installation file and the user guide, are pretty large. So you'll see that when I open up my my printout of my work order, I have my installation instructions, and then all the way down at the bottom, I have my user guide. So it's two pretty big files that I have attached. But you know, just like before, I don't think it would really be useful to have that user guide attached just because it's such a large file. So if I went back in and I went back to that asset record and I turned that to false for print with work order, and then I went back to that that particular work order we were looking at for the installation and printed it again, you'll see that I only have my installation instructions, but I no longer have my user guide. Now, say for instance, this work order was generated and was created for this installation, but the person performing the installation actually needed to see that user guide. What they could easily do is just navigate over to that asset. So the asset ID is attached right here. I could just click on that and navigate over to my asset record pretty easily, scroll down to my asset documents and click on that link document to access the file from document storage. And then you'll see here's my user manual available for me to download. So I won't have to actually print it out every time, but just in case I do need it, it is still there. So that actually concludes all the topics that I'd like to cover in this webinar. Now I'm going to open up the questions chat window, but while I let you guys enter in your questions, what I want to do is just go over some of the upcoming events here at eMaint. So upcoming webinars, next month we have our Advanced PM Setup in eMaint X4 webinar. That'll be on Wednesday, October 17th at 11 a.m. And just tomorrow we have a Best Practices webinar for the 3 practical strategies for leaders managing preventable errors in the workplace. And that'll be at 11 a.m. as well. Continuing on, we have a couple upcoming boot camps. All of them are being held down here at our Bonita Springs, Florida office. We have a couple on work management and PMs, reports and dashboards, system administration, and inventory and purchasing. We also have our weekly new user training webinar, which is held every Tuesday at 11 a.m. And lastly, pretty quickly approaching, we have Accelerate 2018. So as you know, it's quickly approaching. So seats are filling up pretty quickly. So I would definitely recommend, if you're planning on coming, to reserve your seat as quickly as possible. So I'm going to go now into the questions and answer anything that's been entered in.